FunWhole's Old West train station has arrived, and I'm just going to say this up front, I've really enjoyed building this set. It has over 1900 pieces, so it's a pretty sizable build. It's packed with loads of small details that I'm excited to share with you. We're going to be covering the minifigures, the lighting kit, and the full-blown train station, so let's get into it. Very quickly before we begin exploring this build, I just wanted to thank FunWhole for sending me this set early for review, and to note that all thoughts and opinions are my own. Sweet, so let's talk specifics. The Old West train station is part of FunWhole's Western series, and it really captures that dusty frontier vibe. Their slogan for the set is "Let's get dusted in Old West Town," and honestly, they nailed that feeling. The set comes with 1,974 pieces, and the build's dimensions come in at 42 by 32 by 13 centimeters. Personally, I think it's got really great shelf presence without being too massive. For those of you wondering, the set's train tracks are compatible with other premium brands, so you're free to mix and match if you've already got some Western themed sets in your collection. One of the great features of this set is the minifigures, in my opinion, so let's quickly cover those. You've got 5 distinct characters: the ticket seller, the passenger, the gold miner, the robber, and the bounty hunter. They really help bring the Old West to life with their unique designs. As with their previous Western train set, they've once again included a felt skirt, which can be seen being worn by our passenger. I think it's a really nice touch, and it adds some variety to the minifigures. Each minifigure has a lot of personality. The gold miner looks like he's ready to strike it rich, and the robber, well, let's just say he's got bad news written all over him. Now, in my opinion, they've definitely got character, but I think there's room for improvement. First, I think it'd be great if these figures had 2 faces, one for their everyday look and one for, say, a more dramatic expression. Especially with characters like the bounty hunter and robber, having that extra face would really elevate the storytelling. I also just wanted to talk about the movement for these figures. I mentioned this in a previous video, but the minifigure arms still feel a bit odd to me. They can't swing straight without crossing over the body, which is annoying as it makes equipping them with items and posing them very difficult. It'd also be nice to see thicker arms for durability, because they are quite thin and I'm always worried that they might break. And finally, the legs need some tweaking so the minifigures can sit down properly. Right now, their legs have a very smooth finish to them, so that when they do sit on a bench that has some studs, the studs can't actually connect to the minifigure, which means that the minifigure wobbles a bit too much for my liking. So now that we've covered the minifigures, we're going to go on to the build itself, and as I mentioned before, it is a very enjoyable and relaxing experience. You've got over 1900 pieces, but the pace of this build is just right. There's nothing too overwhelming within the set, so if you're like me, you can just take your time, sip your coffee, and just enjoy the build. One of the highlights for this build, and as with all other FunWhole sets, are their lighting kits, so I'm just going to cover a little bit about that. The lighting in this set is really well thought out. FunWhole has done an amazing job placing the lights exactly where they need to be, from the inside of the train station to the platform outside, and at night this thing just glows in all the right places. I'm always impressed with how much attention they give to lighting, and this set is no exception. Another thing I love, no stickers. All the tiles are beautifully printed, and there's a huge variety of them in this set. And it's such a relief because, you know, placing stickers just perfectly has and always will be a bit of a pain. Talking about the build itself, FunWhole have gone for a raised station design, and personally I love this. I think it's very accurate of Western times, and it also just adds a little bit more depth to the build. Also, because of this, it feels like you're standing on the platform waiting for the next train to arrive. So now we're jumping up to the roof design. I think it's brilliant. It's got the classic Western feel with traditional paneling, and the colors are just spot on for a set like this. I did notice, and I may be a bit picky here, but to me, the font used for the signage seems a little bit odd. It doesn't completely match with the Western theme, but it's clear and readable, so no major complaints there. So we've done an overview of this build. I now just want to cover the tiny details because there are so many of them. So starting with the outside, the station has a train schedule posted right on the wall, plus a sign advertising bullets for sale, which is very on brand for the Wild West. There's a ticket booth ready for passengers and barrels of fruit and produce stacked out front, giving the station a busy, lived-in feel. There's even a ramp to deliver those goods right into the station. The wooden panelling and extra crates make the whole thing feel super authentic. I also wanted to point out the sliding station door, which I think is a really nice touch, and then I'll give FunWhole some bonus points for the golden stars being used as door handles. It's a perfect nod to the Western theme. Lastly, I just wanted to point out the wanted poster outside the station that hints at FunWhole's larger Western world and references some of the bandits that you might actually find from some of the other sets, which I think is really, really cool. Now, once you step inside the station, you've got the goods and packages storage section. There's a classic station clock hanging on the wall with a mailbox underneath, and you can't miss out the old gramophone, so talk about that vintage charm. There's also a recent newspaper article pinned up detailing the latest crime wave in the town, just in case you need a little drama. And for those waiting on a delayed train, there's a cosy recreational area complete with seats, a telephone and even a bulletin board mentioning the delay. Lastly, I wanted to point out the ticket booth inside, which I think is very well designed and has various train tickets on sale, ready for the next adventure. Just before we move on to the last part of the set, I did want to mention that they are using studs and jumper plates to help the minifigures stand in place. I had mentioned this in one of my earlier videos, so it's really nice to see them being implemented into this build. One of the last parts of this build is the Little Dread tree. It's just a small, simple addition, but it really helps bring the whole scene together. And again, I know that I've mentioned this a few times, but the train track is compatible with their previous Western set. So if you already have that train, it will look right at home pulling into the station. The build itself also fits well with other premium brands, so if you're mixing and matching it, you're just in luck. All in all, this is a super smooth and satisfying build. The instructions were clear, the bricks were very high quality, and there's just so much attention to detail throughout this entire set. We've covered the minifigures, the lighting, and the build. Let's just quickly touch on the price. The price is around 125 euros or roughly 115 Great British pounds. You're getting a very well designed set, 1,900-ish pieces, 5 unique minifigures, the lighting kit, and a ton of intricate detail. Personally, I think it's priced fairly for what you get. It's a premium set, but it doesn't feel too overpriced. Now, having mentioned that, I do think it would be great if FunWhole could introduce some smaller sets for the Western theme, because at the moment they've just got big ones. So hopefully we can see a smaller set coming in the future, but I guess we'll just have to wait. Lastly, before we wrap up the video, I just want to cover the cons because I did have a couple of them, so let me just quickly mention what I found. The first being was that the instructions say that the battery pack can sit flush underneath the build. However, if you're like me and you follow the instructions properly, you'll soon realise that that's not entirely accurate. The battery pack actually sticks out slightly. If you do want to sit it flush, what you'll have to do is just shift a few of the foundation bricks around just to make some room. It's not a huge deal, but it's just something to keep in mind. Lastly, the second one, and it might come down to personal preference, but one of the benches on the platform isn't fixed in place. I'm not sure if that's intentional to allow flexibility and have it move around the station, but to me it just feels a little bit odd, and it would have been nice if it was anchored down. So to summarise, all in all, I think this is another gem from FunWhole. It's got a lot of character, tons of hidden details, and the building experience was a breeze. So I'm going to say, if you're a fan of the Old West, I think this set is a must-have. Thanks again to FunWhole for sending me this set to review, and if you want to check out any of their products and you fancy getting a little bit of a discount, I've left my affiliate link down below in the description section. If you enjoyed the video and you found it useful, be sure to hit it with that like button. Let me hear your thoughts in the comment section down below, and if you're new here and you want to support the channel, just hit subscribe. As always, I'll see you in the next one.